In the last video, we looked at using modifiers for the first time. This time, I'm going to use the subdivision modifier again, but this time in a much more creative kind of manner. So, normal object mode screen, add, and I'm going to add a ready-made shape. This time I'm going to go with the UV sphere. Okay, and so there's all the properties of the sphere. Zoom in on that. So I'm going to use this, but with ceramic printing, as I said, there's a kind of 45-degree rule. Anything flatter than 45 degrees is very difficult to print. So the top and the bottom of a sphere you can't print. So in this case, I'm just going to cut it off. So let's just close that down. Into edit mode, so that's a tab, and then front view. So my numpad 1. Now there is a box select, so if I click on the background that deselects all of that. There's a box select that is key B. So if I hit key B, I can then box select, say, all of that, and we could select that as well. The only trouble is with a box select, though, that if you turn it around, you can see it doesn't go right through the object. It only kind of selects where you can see. So I'm going back to view 1. There's a way around this by going into what we call wireframe view. So along the top here, a whole mass of buttons, but I don't get involved in these too many. But there is one that sort of looks like a wire view. If we press on that, now it becomes wire view. And if I go box select and go across it again, or at the top here, across it again, now you can see that the view kind of goes right through because it's transparent. So then I can press X and delete the vertices there. Okay, it's a bit difficult to see what's going on in wire view, so you go back to solid view. So it's these two: solid, wire, solid. Okay. Now it's a bit more sort of dumpy than I want to work with, so I can press the A key to select all of them, and then I'm going to scale in the Z direction to kind of get it a bit more elongated. Right, I'm kind of happy with that, I think. Now what I'm going to do is switch on the SubSurf modifier, and I go over here, click on the spanners. Now in actual fact, modifiers should be added in the object mode. I think it is possible to do in the edit mode, but anyway, we will then subsurface, and you can see immediately it's looking a bit smoother. And I'm going to smooth it again. I'm actually going to go to a third smooth. Now I was in object mode, I tab back into edit mode. So I haven't applied this yet. So I'm actually still working with the kind of the rough mesh, the black mesh, but it looks nice and smooth underneath it. So I'm going to select everything as I've done before, and we're back to the select, checker deselect. So I kind of got every second one selected there, but I don't want to work on the top and bottom, so I'm doing this trick that I did in the cups as well. So what's it? Shift, that's a multiple selection. Alt to get a whole sort of select the whole circle of selections. Now I actually want the black ones, not the orange ones. So Control I is invert. So we're back into business there. Right, now if I scale those, S for scale, and not in the Z direction, I just want to kind of push in and out. You can see it really textures. Nicely. Anyway, I want to try this inward texture. Okay, there we go, and that might be a form that you're happy with, but I'm actually going to change this a little bit more. I want to then make this a bit smaller, but in proportion. So we did proportional editing in the last video, so I switched this on, and now everything within the, so when I now scale, and I don't want to go in the Z direction just for a change, everything within the circle is going to also scale proportionally. Obviously I could, with the roll of my middle mouse, I can expand the circle and you can see it changes it, so it's make that base a little bit smaller. And I actually want to pull that down a little bit as well. So G for grab, and in the Z direction, and from about halfway. So you can see again, I can vary as to how much it pulls by wheeling the mouse. There we go. I think actually the middle here could be a bit fatter. So, there's this line of vertices along here, and I can left click on those and then scale those again on the Z and reduce my mouse just so it's sort of really in the belly of the piece. There. And I'm now actually going to switch that off, I think. So I'm just going to work the top here. Let's put this on, just pull that up a bit. What I'm in perspective view, so I'm getting a bit of a kind of an uneven view because this is closer, so I'm going to go back to that. I think that's a better representation of what we are. And scale, I just want to scale this a little bit. Anyway, that's your preferences. Anyway, so when I go back into object mode with the tab, we have that. Okay, so I'm going to the middle, go to my move button and just put this on the work surface. So it wasn't absolutely necessary. And now I'm just going to push it off to the side because I'm now going to try again doing something similar but slightly different proportions. So click just in the world, so that's not selected, add, and another one of these isospheres. Okay, bring up its property box. Now this time I want to simplify it back even more. So it was at 32 segments kind of going around and 16 segments top to bottom. So let's half this down to 16 and half this one down to 8. It doesn't look like it actually went. I'm going to have to do that again. X to delete. So we go up here and so I'm going to add another sphere like we did last time. And 8, that's better. Right. Now as last time, I'm going to chop off just the top and bottom by how much? I think let me just so go into edit mode, and I could go between the wireframe and solid view up there, but I also know that if I press the Z key just on its own, I get this wheel coming up, and there's solid and there's wireframe, so it saves me having to go up there. I can just sort of do it with the keys. Okay, and box select that lot. And let's just go into, it's a case where orthographic view is better, that it's more just sort of straight on. And that, so that's selected right through. X to delete and the vertices, so that's better. Now I want to go back to solid view, so I press the Z key, this wheel comes up and just click on the solid. Okay, now what I want to do, just expand this one up a bit and this one down a little bit. And same as that, I think. Yep, let me select everything, select, check a deselect. Probably going to be tired of this by now. Control invert. Okay, I haven't got my modifier switched on, so let's switch on the modifier. There we go, and step that up again to 3. Enter that. Now this time, scale again. Go up one more on this. There we go, that's better now. And so once again, I can select the bottom here, scale that in, possibly grab it down a little bit as well. Grab the top here, up a little bit. So you can see, using the same ideas, I've managed to produce 2 very different looking sort of vessels. Okay, so both of those have still got a subsurf on them. If I go into the tab mode, you can see all the subsurf. Back into object mode, select this one, subsurf. Now that could be, exported in STL and would be ready to go. As I say, I would suggest I would move that into the middle, just so that when you put it in the slicing program, it sits in the middle of the program. But I wanted to show you another way forward with the subdivision surface, so let's switch that off. And now I am in object mode. I always do my adding of objects in object mode. Add the same UV sphere again. Okay, and now this time I actually want into edit. I'm just going to take the very top away and shift to hold the bottom, the very bottom as well. Okay, so I've selected top and bottom there, and X to delete the vertices, so let's open that up. I'm going to go back into just straight on view. Select the top here and switch on the proportional editing just to scale that out a bit. And I'm doing the same down the bottom here. And I might grab that out a bit as well. Grab in the Z direction. So G for grab and Z for, so it only goes down. G for grab, and in the Z direction, move the wheel and go. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is actually only just work on these faces in the middle. I'm going to leave a line at the top and a line at the bottom. So I now, I've been working with all the vertices. I will now go over to faces, and I do want to select the faces right through. So it's this trick again of going Z keywords. I'm going for wireframe, but it's the Z key and then over to wireframe. By going that orthographic, I'm now looking much straighter on. So my box select again, I kind of select the area that I want right. So I've got all of the faces in the middle. I'm going to go back to solid view just so we can see what's going on. Okay, I haven't yet switched on the modifier, so I'm going to do that. Add subdivision modifier for this one, and also ratchet that up to 3. Alright, now what I'm going to do is to these surfaces that I've got here, I want to extrude all of them and individually. So where's the extrusion here? So there's the extrusion, but I just don't want to extrude the region. I want to extrude individually. This will make sense in a moment. So now if I pull these, you can see that each surface is extruding. If I undo that and just go back just to make this clear, if I say do extrude region and I pull, then the whole lot kind of extrudes in some sort of direction. Anyway, it's basically not what I want. So you just have to make sure you are getting the one that is all about them extruding individually, and I want to come out, but there's probably an option for going in as well. So I am extruding it outward. So each surface has now got a little bubble on it, basically. Now what I want to do is sort of turn those to points by scaling each one of these surfaces. So I need to get out of this tool. I can see I'm still in that tool because this yellow thing is there. So go back to the pointer. Now I could hit scale and try and scale this out, but that's not what I want. Everything scales, and it's scaling back sort of towards the center, because the scaling always happens towards this, and this is why I once spoke away in the first video, I talk about the cursor. It scales towards the cursor. Now I want them to scale individually, so this is where we want to be going up here. Actually, let me just turn that off. Is this little tab up here, by default it goes to the median point, so that's the median point there, that sort of thing we were talking about. I want them to scale individually, just like just now we extruded each of those surfaces individually. We now want these to scale individually. So now if I hit scale and go, each one of those scales on its own, and we're going to this kind of point. So you can see now I've managed to sort of put a texture all over this vessel. And now I'm just going to change the character of, where am I? I'm trying to grab the bottom here to, sort of get that whole circle at the bottom. And you can see it's not grabbing. And that's, why? I'm still in the face select mode. I need to be in vertice mode. So select the vertices, and now visually this changes a bit. We got all the little dots. Now if I go Alt left click, I've got everything there. So grab in the Z to make this a little bit longer, and let's do it at the top as well. Grab in the Z, do that bit, and just because I've been doing it before, I'm now going to, again put a little bit of a lip onto this. So, those are selected, those top vertices are selected. So extrude, E for extrude, and in the Z direction, and up we go. And now you can see, because we've got the subsurf set, switched on, it is subdividing all of this. We don't have to do that loop cuts. And other examples we had to sort of put loop cuts in, because I now want to scale the top here, just so it sort of bends out a bit. And you can see, to get a nice curve on here, very often you'd have to do loop cuts to get more detail, whereas now we don't have to do that. So I've now actually selected that line just below that and scale and pull that in, and whoops, too much, otherwise the 3D printer won't manage to do it. But there we are, so back into object mode, and let's go numpad 1, so we're looking right from the front, and then move that up onto the work surface as well. This is a bit of a giant in comparison to us, so I might scale that down just so that it could be a set if you wanted to print them kind of as a set. Right, so that's the sort of thing you can do with the subsurf. So by now we're starting to actually use the tools of the software in a very creative way. No longer you're just kind of drawing like you might on a piece of paper and turning it into a 3D form. Now you're actually using the power of the computer to help you create textures or create forms and so on and so forth. As we discussed, if you go into edit mode, the subsurface is still there. You could save your Blender file, save as Blender file with this still switched on, or you could, if you're absolutely happy that you're not going to edit this at any stage, you could confirm and apply the subsurface. Okay, so if we tab into one of these, and go into wireframe, there's so much going on, it's hard to see, but you see that that's very complex, obviously, whereas if we go back to object mode and now into that one, you can see it's applied all the extra subdivisions that you've put on. Z, solid form, back to that. Right, I hope that was useful.